Namaskaram, Sadhguru
Namaskar.
ji. Once again we meet on Frankly Speaking, and this time in the Isha ashram here, uh, and the peace and tranquility, the atmosphere, um, I don't know what to say. I'm just soaking it in, and it is really special to be here. Sadhguruji, we are also talking to you at a time when we are on the cusp of a cultural and a civilizational renaissance. 22nd of January is a date that this country is waiting with bated breath for. What are your thoughts at this moment in terms of reclaiming our cultural and religious ethos?
See, in the life of any nation, many aberrations happen. Unfortunately, this is how human beings have been. But when we reclaim certain things, we are supposed to fix certain things. For example, when the Arabian armies took over Spain in 8th century, literally every cathedral they converted it into mosques. But when they regained it in 13th century, they built back everything without exception. So this should have been done before 1950. From 47 to 50 we should have done this. And because a nation grows, nation's ability to be successful is not just in its resources, politics, military, it's the spirit of the people. If people feel defeated, they're not going to do great things. So I think this is over 70 years overdue, if you ask me. So it's a very good step. I wish it could happen without acrimony, because everybody knows it was a temple site, because the invaders who destroyed it, they themselves have recorded that we destroyed it with great pride, they have written it down. We must understand, because their intention of destroying such magnificent structures was not just for plunder. They could have taken what they wanted and left the temple. Gold, diamonds, whatever they could take and leave the stones alone, but they destroy mainly to break the spirit of the people. That is the intent. Especially when Muhammad Ghaznavi comes to, Mathura, their historian records that we have never seen a structure like this, as beautiful and as magnificent and as huge as this. This cannot be the work of a man. Men cannot do this. This is work of gods. He writes that, and they proceed to destroy the temple anyway. Because it is not about loot, it is not about conquest, it is about breaking the backbone of human spirit, because that's where it is. So, putting this back is a very important thing, but I wish the leaders of two communities have enough sense to sit down, talk, and we can do this without this acrimony. We can do this without making another community feeling defeated at this point, because we need their spirit also to build this nation. They should not feel defeated. But unfortunately, it is being translated like that by a few people, but generally I think there is an upsurge of spirit, not against anybody, of their own pride of being who they are, which is wonderful for the next phase of this nation's growth and development, because as we know, this demographic dividend that we have won't last forever. We have a window of 15 to 25 years. If we don't hit it now, we won't do it. We will be… Right now we are very proud, we are a young nation. In 25, 30 years, we'll be an old nation, all right, with 1 billion people. 1 billion people over 60 years of age is not a good thing for a nation, but we will get there anyway. So before that, if we don't really upgrade people's lives, For this, you need a very spirited participation of the population. Just governments cannot do this. So that spirit, I think there are many aspects to that spirit. But this whole thing of if you're successful, you must leave the country is going away. Those who are successful want to come back to the country, though in living standards there may be a big drop, but still they want to come back because the spirit. This is important, that the best minds, the best talent and the highest level of competence stays in the country. For this, all these things are very essential.
Sadhguruji, you talk about acrimony. Is this acrimony really from the real people of India, or is it only at the political level?
It is largely at the political level, I would say. But when leaders speak such terms, obviously the common people, their minds will get poisoned and they will start thinking something against them is being done. See, first thing is, the Muslim community should not identify with the invaders. This is very important. You have a religion, absolutely no problem, but you should not identify with the invaders who committed such atrocities. If you identify with them, then all these memories come back. When I look at you, all those memories come back. You shouldn't do that. You must distance yourself. It's all right, whatever happened, happened. Nobody can fix the past. We are talking about fixing the future of the nation. In this, everybody should be a part of it. So, this may not be the thinking or the feeling of a whole community, but when it being incited, it could become significant population. So it's very important such things are handled properly by law, that when people openly say such a certain things to inflame the passions in ordinary people because they don't know any better. How many people have studied Indian history? Because what you read in the school is a complete fake history. Our school history book is a complete fake. So in the last, like I'm just feeling stupid that in the last 8–10 years I made it a point to be a little bit of a history student and trying to catch up on a few things. It's amazing how we've just been deceived by our own school textbooks, which when you're children you believe absolutely.
So, do you think there was a political design to do so? Do you think, within a few years of independence of our country, people began to plot and plan on which way to teach people history in order to train their minds to think in a certain way? And are you saying, there have been statements even recently, somebody says that if we begin to put a nation's emphasis on the Ram Mandir to such an extent that it becomes a national agenda, then we are worried that we will become a Hindu Rashtra.
See, if you don't want it to become national agenda, just ignore it. But you're not able to ignore it because you know it burns in the hearts of maximum number of people. It is not about a temple, it is about correcting a historical wrong. And largely it'll happen to the temples and they are representative in our minds. So I'm not generally too much of a temple-going person. I close my eyes, this is my way. But what it means to people, you just have to see here, people coming here, thousands of them every day, what it means to them. You can't ignore them. Whatever you're thinking may be individual thinking. So, was it by design? 100%. It's by design, no question about it. Well, unfortunately, when we became independent, we only valued… this is a hangover from the colonial era, that we only valued people who can speak English. I am also a culprit, all right? I can speak South Indian languages, but maximum communication happens in English language because that has become the world's language. There is no other way to be. But in the making of the nation, we should have involved different types of thinking, which is more, what to say, ethnic or indigenous in nature. But we framed everything only by English-educated people. Those who were English-educated pre-independence, whatever you may say, except a few, all others were overawed by the British. They were simply overawed by the British because they probably wished their skin was different color. That's how it was. When you look at their words, their reading, their writings and things, it shows that they were overawed. It's all right, they also participated, but more indigenous thinking people should have been a part of it. But somehow that didn't happen for whatever reasons. I don't want to simply do post-mortem and cry about what is gone. What is gone cannot be fixed. What can be fixed, we must fix, otherwise how?
But then what is gone cannot be fixed. You say it in one sentence, but you then in another breath also talk about the grandeur of Mathura. And after the Ram Mandir, it is something that has once again come alive, not just in people's minds, but also in the courts of India. Mathura, Kashi.
See, that is what I would be completely against, a mass of people going and taking over a property. I'm completely against that. If within the framework of the constitution, through the legal recourse, if you go and if you get it, it should be fine with everybody. Otherwise it means that you don't believe in the nation itself. That's what it means. So somebody passes a law that a majority of people cannot go have legal recourse in their life for something that matters to them.
1991
1991.
Places of Worship Act.
But I'm saying, how can it be constitutionally okay that I tell you, you cannot go to court? Everybody can go to court for whatever issues they have. Unfortunately, our courts are taking enormous amount of time. It shouldn't have been like that, but in spite of that, even though your life may wear out going to court, but still you have a right to go for legal recourse. You cannot seek legal recourse. What kind of law is that? I'm saying, where does it come from? We are talking about a democratic nation where everybody has their rights. You cannot go to court. There cannot be a law like that.
But Sadhguruji, what about the spirit? The spirit is that if you keep reopening old wounds, where will this civilization of today rest? Maybe that was the argument when the 1991 Places of Worship Act came.
See, I would say it's a wrong argument. In 1991, things were not the same as it's today. At that time, very easily, people who had the necessary power to do that could have convinced the other community, see, these are iconic places, you just hand them over. You would have brought such sense of brotherhood. Instead of that, you use that to…
divide more.
Yes, because you learned everything from the British, how to administer, including the, recently changed criminal procedure codes and everything. You picked it up as it is. What was written by Macaulay in 1830, you just took it in toto except for very small changes that you made. And that also became a relevant law in this country, though it was written in 1830, 1840. Only after the Great War of Independence, after 1857, it became a law because that's when the British really took over. Till then it was East India Company, all right? So they hurriedly put those laws as it was in England. So when we got our independence, this was very important because everybody blames it on the constitution. We must understand all these things were done in a rush. Very clearly Dr. Ambedkar said, this is not a complete document, we need to do many things. This is a basic framework, but rest of it has to be done. But it was never done either because we were lazy or indolent or we were too happy we became independent without food in our stomach. We are free of food also. So I'm saying large number of people have been free from food also. So we did not think how to do this, and above all, the way we conducted immediately after the independence or the process of independence. See, this was a subcontinent. Bharat is a subcontinent. We turned it into an island nation. Today you can do any trade only by sea. You don't have a road going anywhere except to Nepal and Bhutan. You don't have a railway going anywhere. You don't have a gas pipeline or a petroleum pipeline coming from anywhere. Nothing. You're an island. Everything comes through Iranian port. It's just the silliest way to run a nation. We must understand no island nation has ever become a great nation. They can only operate within those limitations because everything has to come by sea. So we turned a subcontinent into an island. So we have to seriously question our intelligence, our wisdom, or even our intent.
When people today come out and have an altercation on who's invited, who's not invited for the 22nd of January, if they are invited, why they are invited, who's the government to invite them, is this a state festival, is it against the constitution, what happens to the definition itself of a secular country?
Well, I must tell you, I have an invite. It did not come from the government of India, it came from the Ram Janmabhoomi Trust. So, I'm humbled that they invited me, but unfortunately my schedules are such that I'm not in the country at that time because my schedules are planned 6 to 8 months ahead of time. This came much later. So I will not be there on that day, but the invite is coming from… You must understand, this whole movement was not handled by any great leaders. At some point, maybe some leaders interjected in some things, but rest of the time it's been handled by ordinary people for 500 years. Look at the resilience, look at the spirit and look at the patience. 500 years, you keep a cause going. How many people have done that in the world? 500 years. It's incredible, and this is all done by ordinary people those who filed cases, you just go and look at their backgrounds. From then onwards, I'm saying, from 18th, 19th century onwards, you see what sort of people filed cases, simple, ordinary people. And even today it is like that, just to meet the people who are in the trust, very ordinary people. And it's fantastic that they have managed to do this. Now, of course, government is participating in it, the UP government is participating in the arrangements and everything. When such a big event is happening, such a… what to say… a historically significant event is happening, if the government doesn't participate, it'll be foolish. But at the same time, should it become a government function? Definitely not. I don't believe that it should be.
Is it?
It is not. It is not. They invited me, I know who invited me. Government did not invite me, it's not a government of India or government of UP function. But organization around it has to be done by the government, who else will do it? We hold Mahashivratri here, though the government may be whatever it is, but they send all the arrangements, the police and this and that and fire and whatever else is needed. Similarly, everywhere it needs to be done, wherever people gather, it's government's business to provide everything.
So, when people begin to question that the secular nature of the state is being altered, how would you respond to those critics?
I think you should show them a dollar bill. It says, "In God we trust." The dollar bill. Well, you think they're talking about Shiva or Rama or Krishna? They're talking about their God, whatever they believe in. So that is not considered not secular? You go to any big major event in England, without the chaplain, you can't start the event. The same goes for when the American president is being sworn in. Without the priest, it won't happen. They participate. What's the problem with us? Secular doesn't mean kill all the religions. Secular does not mean atheistic. Secular means every religion has equal right to participate. But definitely we are not a secular country because even our temples are not in our hands. The government is running our temples, how are we a secular nation? We are not a secular nation according to me.
So, the status of Indian temples, the pride of Indian temples, historically we've seen many of these temples being destroyed in the northern part of India because of invasions.
Not many, almost everything in north. In the northern plains, just everything has been taken out. Whatever you have now is hurriedly put together, small shacks.
So the grandeur and the identification, the pride that a people would want to have in their religion, somewhere that has got lost. Do you think we are in that phase of the history or the making of this country where we are setting right the old wrongs?
See, we must understand this. First of all, you should not refer to the Hindu way of life as a religion, because the word religion, according to everybody else, or at least the source coming from very troublesome spot in the world right now, from the Abrahamic source, religion means a set of beliefs. We don't ascribe to any set of beliefs. You can believe whatever you want. You're still a Hindu. Because it's a geographical identity on one level, on another level it's a civilizational identity. As a civilization, what is the significance of this? As a civilization, the significance is we are a land of seekers. That we don't have commandments to follow. We have to find our own way. This is the most democratic way of handling individual needs. Human beings, if they are little sensible, if they look around, in this cosmos, you don't know where the hell it begins, where it ends. Neither the religious people nor men of science have any clue where it begins, where it ends. So if you sit here on this round little mud ball that we call as a planet, and it's spinning around and traveling at a great speed, if you perceive the context of your existence here, you don't know nothing. So people try to find out through various means what they do not know, they try to bridge with a little bit of assumptions about it. If you don't allow this, nobody can maintain their psychological balance. Only those fools who think they are ruling the world and everything is run by them, they will be okay, because fanatics will always be okay, because all the multi-tracks in the mind have been eliminated. So don't put Hindu way of life in that category, we don't belong to that. This civilization's significance is this. See, I think it was very well articulated at the G20 summit, that when did it happen ever, anywhere in the world, when committee of nations are together, the top 20 nations are meeting. Well, it's 21 now. I'm so proud of this nation simply because we brought in African Union. They have had the worst deal for the last 200 years. Everything that belongs to them has been taken and somebody else has become wealthy, but they themselves are in such pathetic conditions. I've traveled across Africa. It's painful to see how people are, you know, a huge continent being subjugated like this. So including African nations is a massive thing, not a small thing. In G20, Africa is not a country, all right? Others are all 20-year nations, this is a continent. But we managed to include that, that's not a small thing. And then you say, one earth, one family, one future. Tell me, even the United Nations did not say this. One earth, one family, one future. This is the only way forward for this world. The way we are empowered today with technologies and destructive technologies that we have, if we don't think one earth, one family, one future, no future is the only thing you can say, because we are that powerful human beings right now, that we can do such massive destruction, that we can destroy the planet over and over again. That much power we have. So this is a civilization which is inclusive in nature. This is why when people came here, they couldn't figure out. You know, Huyan Sang, the Chinese traveler, says, this is the strangest country I've ever been to, because on the battlefield war is going on, but farmers are ploughing their field. Women are washing their clothes and vessels at the river bank. right here, little away, a battle is going on. But soldiers fight. They won't come and hurt the women or the farmer, so they carried on with their activity. That is the kind of nation this is, because we framed rules for things that cannot be contained usually. War is like somebody else said, everything is fair in war.
Love and war.
I'm leaving the love out because that'll go somewhere else. So, this is a nation where we even conducted war by rule, the rule of law. This is what we call dharma. Unfortunately, the word dharma has been stolen or misinterpreted as just as religion. Well, we had Raj Dharma, we have householders' Gruhastha Dharma, we had sannyasis Dharma, we had various kinds of dharmas, set of rules and laws for every kind of activity that we perform, including the spiritual process. So this is a land where nobody descended from anywhere. This is a land we grew divine beings, we cultivated divine beings. This is the whole thing about this culture. This should not be forgotten. This civilization is about growing gods in our society, growing gods in our homes. This is not about inviting gods from another place, because we don't think there is a better place, this is the best place. Even when you talk about Ram, who is right now in the full picture, we call him Maryada Purushottam. What does it mean? Among the Purushas, he is a Uttama. We are not calling him a god, we are calling him Maryada Purushottam. So how does somebody become a Maryada Purushottam? That means he deserves everybody's respect. You may like him, you may not like him, but his qualities are such you must respect him. What is that quality? The quality is just this. If you look at his life, let me not go through the whole drama of his life, everybody knows Ramayana now, at least the main events, if they don't know the whole thing. If you look at the main events, his life is a trajectory of disasters. From losing his kingdom to losing his wife, and then again sending his wife into the forest, not seeing his children for his entire life, only in the battlefield he sees them, and he tried to kill them not knowing who they are. Terrible life. But he never allowed any situation to bring angst into him, anger into him, hatred into him. No. What is needed, he will do. When I was in the Youth and Truth campaign in one of the premier institutions, one young boy asking me, you know, the way he treated his wife, this Rama, he brings her back from there and then sends her to the forest. I think he was insecure about she being elsewhere for some time. I said, see, you definitely are not competent to be a psychiatrist for Rama. And 7,000 years later, you don't sit here and make these judgments. But if he was an ordinary man, how he treated his wife, you could question. But he is a king. For the king, his praja is the most important aspect, people. He is there for people. And it is a time when he is trying to establish the dharma of the land, that everybody… Essentially dharma means trying to make it a law-abiding population. When he is doing this, when people suspect your wife has been somewhere, how do we know the children that she is bearing are yours? But they are asking this question. And she is going to be our queen mother. What kind of queen mother is she? So, if he didn't care for the woman, he did what he did, that's not it. He walked down 3,000 miles, fought a battle and got her back, all right, risking his life and his brother's life. So obviously she means that much to him. But he placed the well-being of the people and the rule of law of that nation at that time rather than his personal love. So do we want leaders in the world who hold their biological relationships as the highest, or they hold the well-being of the nation as the highest? I'm saying in that context, Rama should be the leader of the future for the world. We need people who think beyond their biology. We need leaders who think beyond their personal likes and dislikes, their own sufferings, their own problems, and look at what is best for the people. That's what we want, and that's what Rama signifies, and that is what this culture signifies, a sense of sacrifice. Essentially, dispassion when it comes to myself, absolute passion when it comes to everybody around you. This is the only thing we valued. Passion for everyone, dispassion for myself.
But there are men who come out and say that the youth should be in mosques because the Ram temple is being built. Now it's time for awakening and people to be present in mosques. Do you think this is provocation, or do you think this is incitement, or do you think this is a limited level of vote bank politics?
See, anybody can be wherever they want, but legal recourse will happen according to the laws, the framework of laws. At that time also Rama was trying to establish Dharma, we are also still trying to establish Dharma. As I said, nobody should go and occupy any property forcefully. It's been done in the past, but you can't do it now, because that is within the framework of law, you cannot do that. But if the courts rule whatever, everybody will have to, whether they like it or not. If somebody saying be in the mosque, I don't think that's a problem, it's okay. They want to be in the mosque, they can be in the mosque, what is wrong with that? I don't think, it means a lot to them, so let them be there, it's perfectly fine. But one sentence of 1,000 years of work, I think that must be taken back.
By Asaduddin Owaisi.
Yes, whoever said it, it should be taken back, because these 1,000 years have been of pillage, destruction, slaughter. Don't identify with that. Just because you follow a certain religion, do not identify with the indignities and the sufferings of this population. Do not do that. That should not be done, that is not allowed. But
and that's not provocation in this country.
I think law should take its course on that also. It's not that you have to go, somebody has to go and do something else by themselves. There is enough law for those kind of things. Somebody is saying this 1,000 years of work, what is the work? If you identify with that, then there is a serious problem. Do not create the problem, because ordinary people, no matter whether they're going to temple, mosque or church, they all want to make their lives better. That's all they're asking for. You're trying to mislead them, because only in this misleading you have power. No, people will see through this, but of course a certain percentage of population will get incited. So if the law doesn't handle it, I would say our law enforcement, our process of law is irresponsible. If somebody can identify with the invaders and say, we have done 1,000 years of work of pillage and slaughter and rape and loot, and it's okay, and we are identifying with that. It's been done, we can't undo it. For whatever reason it's been done, we can't undo it. We have no resentment. We are only seeing how to make things right, wherever we can make things right. But when people identify with that with pride, then there is an issue. That issue must be handled by law, not on the street.
Where are we going in our politics, in our government?
I think in the new parliament they should have given reclining chairs. So those who want to fall asleep would have fallen asleep, they wouldn't have walked out. I'm saying, if you go for this one nation, one election, slowly this will level out. All politicians will have their own professions and they will also participate in politics. If it doesn't work, they go back to their profession. This is how it should be.
Sadhguruji, there is in the middle of this cultural and civilizational renaissance, also conversation about a caste census. Now, traditionally, caste was seen as a way of weakening the Hindu way of life, create differences between people. How do you think, and what is your view on the demand for caste census?
See, you don't want a regular census of the citizenry of this nation. You don't want to take a census for the country, but you want caste census. We cannot say whatever the prejudice and the discriminatory process of the caste is gone, because it's still in rural India, unfortunately. It does subjugate people, but it is on the way out. Instead of fighting it now, more education, economic empowerment, I think in one generation it'll be gone. Now if you do caste census and label each one, and maybe tattoo your caste on your forehead, once again we'll be taking a backward step. I think we have to identify who's Indian, who's not an Indian in this and act accordingly. Rest of the census we must give up, because now people are even questioning gender. At a time like this, you're still wanting to identify with caste. But it's a social reality, you cannot wish it away. Still elections are fought on that basis. People are chosen, given tickets on that basis everywhere. You cannot wish it away, it's still there. This is because for thousands of years, this has been the social security system, this has been the way of sharing talent and, trainings and different… because mostly castes were essentially, to start with, they were just division of professions. And because there were no training schools, the only place to train was the family and the community. So they became kind of exclusive. It is over a period of time, suddenly a goldsmith thinks he's superior to the blacksmith. This unfortunate human tendency is there, we should have leveled it at different times in history. We did not do it, but people clung together tighter and tighter. As economic despair came to us because of invasions and occupations, then when there is a problem, you stick to your own clan because that's the only security you have. So, unfortunately, there have been terrible discriminations and injustices happened in the name of caste. I think the less and less we talk about caste as it goes by, except for uplifting a few people who are in, unfortunately prejudiced conditions in certain societies, I think education and economic development is the answer, not now labeling people by caste.
What about the language, Rao? You touched upon it, but there are real differences that exist. There was a recent meeting of the India Alliance where Nitish Kumar was not understood by M.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, because of the language barrier.
I want to tell you also, I turn on the news for English news and you guys are all talking in Hindi, what am I supposed to do?
You should be able to…
Why?
Understand.
I understand that's not the problem, but what about all the other people who don't understand? See, you call it a Times Now English channel. 40% of the time or 50% of the time, in some debates nearly 60 to 70% of the time, you're talking only Hindi.
That's because…
Why don't you talk Bengali?
People who come on
Arey,
the
don't
channel
invite
from
them if they
political
can't
parties.
speak English in an English channel.
Half of them have boycotted me, now you want me to boycott the other half.
No, not boycotting, take them into your Hindi channel.
There are certain political parties whose representatives end
Ask
up
them
speaking in
to… if they want a representation, if they want a national audience, they must train somebody in English and send.
But then these are regional parties coming together to make a national footprint.
See,
are you saying they should not be…
I'm not saying no. See, whatever regional party, almost all of them are sending their children to English medium schools. So if the children are going to speak English, let them also learn some. I'm not against Hindi, but there are Hindi channels. See, suppose we come to an English channel and start speaking Telugu, Kannada or Tamil, will you allow me? See, this is a country of diversity. Instead of being proud of it, we are struggling with it, that's the tragedy. When we have actually if you recognize over 19,000 languages, but 1,300 languages have been clearly identified with reasonable amount of script and literature, whatever. Nearly 30 languages with huge body of literature is there. So when we made the states, the republic, we went for linguistic division because we thought all these languages should live. Because many of these languages, southern Indian languages, have more literature than English language, far more literature. But now because their populations have shrunk, populations have not shrunk, you guys have improved your population, and suddenly you say Hindi.
But when the North is called, oh, they won these states because these are Gau
See,
states.
I also responded to that comment because he said, this is Hindustan, you must speak Hindi. Who said Hindu is Hindi? So those who speak other languages are not Hindu, is it? This is Hindustan, land of Hindus, not land of Hindi. I mean, somebody who is a political leader of some stature doesn't understand the difference between Hindu and Hindi, then I had to respond.
The questions that I also want to ask you are about the very identity of our country. India, that is Bharat. Today the emphasis has come back on Bharat, and many people have a problem with that as well, that this is once again a political gimmick. How do you see?
See, when you have 5 to 8 elections every year, you don't expect people to talk sense. This is why I've been pushing for one nation, one election, even well before this government, in 2014 this government came, even well before that, I've been pushing for that, because the very nature of democracy and what it is like this. Today, you're in the top position, you're literally the democratic king, all right? And if you lose the election tomorrow, you're nothing. Suppose you had a job like this, you would also be, say, talking all kinds of nonsense. Anybody had a job like this. So this is the nature of democratic process, that today you're up there, tomorrow morning you're nothing. So when this is the thing, when election time comes, you expect all of them to speak absolute sense. Doesn't work. So this little bit of exaggerated articulation should be allowed 3 to 4 months before the election maximum. 3 months is enough, I feel. But now, throughout the 5 years, they're talking because every year there is an election, almost every second month.
So.
No, till 1967, both assembly and as parliamentary elections were done together. It's only after that this has been done. So now the Prime Minister is campaigning, Chief Ministers are campaigning all over the place. Where is the work time? For people who hold office, they are given that position for them to do work, not to campaign for their party. But they can't help it because their party, if it doesn't win, they will be out. They have to win. To win, you have to do emotions and run emotionally, not sensibly, all right? It's an emotional pitch. When you do emotional pitch, you won't talk sense about the nation. So I'm saying, allow once in 5 years, 3 months of nonsense, it's okay.
But do you think, Sadhguruji, some of these laws, One Nation, One Election, CAA, Citizenship Act that you were talking about, will they ever fructify? Given the level of acrimony that we see today, the level of confrontation, we have a new parliament building, but we have old parliamentarians who can't see eye to eye, who can't sit together, who can't pass laws together. One side suspends the others will be unruly. Where are we going in our politics, in our governance?
I think in the new parliament they should have given reclining chairs. So those who want to fall asleep would have fallen asleep, they wouldn't have walked out. So, leaving the jokes apart, well, this is why I'm telling you. This problem is because when somebody loses the election, they are full of angst because they have nothing to do. I'm saying, if you go for this one nation, one election, slowly this will level out. All politicians will have their own professions and they will also participate in politics. If it doesn't work, they go back to their profession. This is how it should be, because they should have done something else successfully in their life. It's very important. People who have done nothing other than taking morchas on the street come to the top. Even administrators, people who are elected members who are running the state are calling for a bandh. You want to close down your own state? What is this? This is done by the enemy.
Democracy?
This, closing down the state is done by the enemy, not by one who is administrating, all right?
But isn't this
No, that
right
is…
to protest
No, it
part
is not
of
about right
democracy?
to protest, it is by habit. So, one nation, one election will happen because already a committee has been formed with the former president in charge of it. I'm sure they'll come out with something. I'm sure, unfortunately, always, all policies are compromise policies. If we don't grow out of this compromise business, everything is compromise, compromise, compromise. Compromise means you deliver half a baby. All laws are made like this, half babies. Half babies are not half solution. Half a baby is a nuisance. You don't have a baby, no problem. Half a baby is a big nuisance. So, without coming to compromise, we must make laws which will take the nation ahead. Somebody should have the courage to do that. Half babies will not solve. But if you don't do half babies, somebody will come out on the street and create ruckus in the country. So, for all these things, we must frame laws. Like right now, various things, see, right now truck drivers are protesting against the new laws. I understand their problem. If a truck driver or a bus driver, somebody hits somebody, because people are crossing on highways where there should be no people. When the vehicle is moving, especially a big vehicle, when it's moving at a certain speed, there's very little he can do. So, if he kills, he won't stop. Because if he stops, he may get lynched right there by the village people, and his truck or bus may get burned down, all this. I've lived on roads, driving all across India. Lucky, no, it didn't kill anybody, because any number of times, many people are just…
run across the road.
They're testing their horoscope with us, whether…
Well, when you talk about horoscopes, Sadhguruji, what is the horoscope of the country? Because we are meeting right now in the new year. What do you think 2024 has in store for us as a nation?
I think we are at an inflection point where if you do the right things now, the country is bound for a very, very rich time. But there are many fundamental issues which are hard to fix issues. One thing is, there is climate issues, which is global, of course. Soil issues are very serious, 1.4 billion people, and our soil organic content is 0.62%, which is very close to desertification, dangerously low. So these things have to be fixed, but can it be fixed? Yes, it can be fixed. And unless you take some laws which not necessarily are popular and push it into action, some certain things cannot be fixed. Economy is going well, I think we will continue to go well, because we placed ourselves geopolitically in a very nice place. We send aid to Ukraine, but we buy oil from Russia on rupee basis. We send aid to Palestine, and we have a big trade with Israel. And we buy oil from UAE now on a rupee basis. These are not small things. Never before we have done this. Never before most countries have not done this kind of tightrope walking efficiently. Thanks to all the people involved. I think India's foreign ministry and diplomatic personnel are being hugely praised across the world. And we say this is not an era of war, but we constantly threaten our neighbor, if you mess with us, we're going to come for you. These are very nuanced approaches, and at the same time, these approaches are coming from certain strength, which is important. Otherwise it won't work. If you didn't have the strength, it won't work. So people recognize the strength, and we are the fifth largest. I think we will be fourth in no time, probably by the end of this year or at least by mid-25. And being the third largest should happen by 2030 or so, 2030 or 2032. I feel it'll happen sooner than later.
And political future?
In the sense?
In the sense it's also a year of elections.
Only Bharatiyas will be elected, that's a good thing.
Well, people can read whatever they want into that last
No, I'm
line.
saying only Indian citizens will be elected, so what's the problem?
Bharatiya. Okay. I get your point. I'm sure our viewers will, because it is English on an English channel. So but Bharat, is it English? Bharatiya, is it English?
See, we are not an English nation, but we were ruled by English. The disgraceful thing is they were just a few thousand people, we were millions of people, but still they managed to rule us. We have to hang our heads in shame, not because they ruled us, because we let them rule us. That shame is there, we have to put our heads down, we can't be talking about that. The important thing is, this is the oldest civilization, living civilization on the planet, in its reasonably same format. Distortions have happened, but reasonably the way it was 1,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, still the same ethos to significant extent it is there. So, calling this country by a name, an English name, is a very silly thing. We should have changed this. 1947, that night, August 15th, August 16th, it should have been Bharat, because Bharat reverberates in people's minds and hearts. Bharat comes from a very profound source. Bha means bhava. That is, human experience is all sensations. See, our whole experience of life is through sensory organs. What you see is a certain kind of sensation, pleasant or unpleasant sensation. What you hear, smell, taste, touch, everything is in terms of sensation. So we said this is bhava, this is human experience. Raga means there is a tune. This tune is not set by us, this is by creation. This is what we are trying to come to in tune with that, with Dharma. How to be in tune with that existential Dharma. That is one thing. Thala means rhythm. This rhythm we have to set. For the tune that is there, if you set the wrong rhythm, you will be crushed by the process of life. If you set the right rhythm, your life is a dance. Bharata.
Sadhguruji, as always, pleasure speaking with you. Profound meaning in ordinary things, the way you explain, I don't think
That is this
anybody else.
civilization, that is this nation. Profoundness in everything.
Thank you very much for joining me, and we do hope we will meet again more often in this new year.
You must come here.
I'm absolutely, totally overjoyed with the experience I've had, and
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll be back.